Three Grots in a Vox is intended for a mature audience. This means there will be crude language and discussions of adult themes, especially if we're talking about Tactical Marines or Gabriel Seth. Viewer discretion is not only advised but encouraged. All opinions are our own and often given for humorous purposes. Any advice is given largely for entertainment purposes and would probably be ignored. But if you do learn something useful, count it as a win.
Welcome, Grotty fans, to episode 2 of our breakdown on all the missions. So we are looking today, or we're looking in this video, at Tear Down Their Icons, which is it was Nakman, now it's a Nephilim mission pack, Strikeforce Mission. So, Mark, what are we looking at here?
So, at basics, this is mission number 12 or 1-2, however you want to name it. It's a 5-objective mission. You've got these weird little triangular deployment zones. You've got an objective in the center of the battlefield. It is a hold 1, hold 2, hold more for 5 objectives. Almost always tend to be, if I recall correctly. You will gain a CP at the start of every player's turn, as is the rules with the Nephilim stuff. And you get some special WAS in planting explosives all around the game board outside of your deployment zone. Actually, no, it's in a half board, isn't it?
Yes, it's in the opponent player's territory, so essentially the half of their board that has the deployment zone is where you can plant the bombs.
So you can walk out a tiny bit of your deployment zone and get across into their half and plant a bomb, or you can take a little bit more of a walk, really. So these are basically planting objective markers.
Yes.
As I understand it.
You're planting them 3 inches away from where the model that performs the action is, and it cannot be within 9 inches of any other primed explosive. It's completed in your next command phase, unless you're OBSEC, and then it's completed at the end of your turn. And basically what's going to happen is for every primed explosive at the end of the game, you're going to get 4 points up to a maximum of 15. So essentially, you would just need to prime 4 to cap out on that, and if you prime 3, you're getting 12, which is still very good. They can be diffused.
They can.
Basically, any enemy units, excluding aircraft, if they're in range of the primed explosive, they can start to attempt to dearm it. They roll a d6. They add 3 to the result if it was OBSEC, and on a 4-up, it gets removed from the battlefield. Yep. So basically, OBSEC will basically always remove it.
Yeah, OBSEC is very, very useful for this mission because it speeds up how quickly you can set bombs, and it makes you more likely to defuse them. You're also, because you have to set each explosive 9 inches away from any other, it is very difficult for a lot of units, especially OBSEC ones, to be able to set an explosive one turn and then do so the next turn, because they generally can't move far enough to do that. Which is, if you're going to plan on doing this with OBSEC units, you want at least 2 OBSEC units and alternate them in various places on the board to do that.
I think you're going to want a few OBSEC units in this one. This is a mission that's really going to reward people building battalions or with lots and lots of OBSEC.
Yeah, well, it's not troops, so that's a benefit. You can use various warlord traits and other powers that make units OBSEC to benefit from this, and then jump them around the board so that one unit here benefits from OBSEC, and then next turn another unit here benefits from OBSEC if you've got rights of war or psychic powers that confer OBSEC on people, that sort of thing.
So hold on, if we go to the bottom middle of the map and assume that I was player A, right? Mm-hmm. And I put a squad of, let's say, troops, OBSEC troops, right in this bottom corner. So in turn 1, I move them, let's say, 6 inches forward into your deployment zone, and I have to set up my first explosive within 3. So I set it up on the left-hand side of them, really basically just 1 inch to the right of the center of the board, right?
Okay.
And then in turn 2, I move that same OBSEC unit another 6 forward. I would now be potentially 7 inches from that first explosive, so I could set one up 2 inches to the right of me, because I have to set it up within 3. So I feel like you could have like 2 turns in a row where you could set them up if you were smart like that. But then in turn
Okay.
3,
And depending on how you strung out the unit as well, you could do that. Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense.
yeah, I guess it's a good point. If you daisy chain the unit, you could maybe even do some more shenanigans. But I think at some point you're right. There will be a turn where you just can't get far enough away from the other ones you've already set up. So you're right in that you probably do want 2 OBSEC units. I guess bonus points if your OBSEC unit can deep strike or can be strategic reserved. And
this is another one that's going to really benefit things like infiltrators, and because infiltrators don't do any damage anyway, so just boshing them somewhere where they can put down.
Yeah, and they create the little bubble around them that nobody
stop
else
your
could
opponent
start
doing the same
or deep
thing.
strike next to, which would be helpful.
And I think if your opponent is going to need to push forward, because they're going to have to come forward and take some objectives, right? And this secondary or this primary plus, because it's technically not secondary, this primed explosive action can synergize very nicely with behind enemy lines. Or Relentless Assault of your Blood Angels, because you could essentially drop...
I don't like it on this map at all.
I agree with Tony. The deployment zone here is the smallest of almost all the deployment zones you get in the game. It's very
really
difficult.
hard to get in it, and it's really easy to screen your own deployment zone.
Okay.
Or because even if you get in it, you're not that far away from the enemy, and they can chase down your units.
I suppose that's a good valid point, yeah.
A lot of time I've seen this played as well. A lot of attention doesn't get given to the explosives, and people maybe try and set 1 or 2 over the course of the battle.
Yeah, I think that's usually what it seems. It almost seems like the winning player sometimes would just set a couple of bombs, but I've never had that idea before of just like putting an OBSEC unit at that bottom middle. So this is a great thing to learn from this video, in that like if you had a troop unit there, you could literally just move them. The opponent's not going to be down there because that's 24 inches from their deployment zone. And typically when you play this map, I feel like you're holding the one in your deployment, and then you're heading middle. You maybe have something coming out to that side, but you're not really strong on that side. You're more strong on your deployment zone in middle. So like if you were doing some sly shenanigans, you could easily get 8 points stacked up right here in this bottom corner. And if anything, that's probably closer to where you're strong than where the enemy's got a lot of forces on the map. So I'm going to use that next time I play this.
As it's a 5 objective map, there is a good argument for considering Oaths of Moment as a secondary on this one, because there's an objective in the middle for you to be holding that will synergize with Oaths, which is always good.
Correct, yeah.
I wouldn't want to take RND with this, because you've got units out doing actions to set explosives conflicting with doing actions for RND. And I think
the only
that's a bit
thing I will
much.
say in counter that, Mark, is like we were saying earlier, you've got to alternate really with your units. You could theoretically then also alternate with your enactments. So the one unit down the bottom, say, is placing your bomb, and the unit up the top is doing your enactment, and then they're going to swap over next turn.
Maybe, but then you've got 2 units doing actions each turn rather than doing things to affect your enemy.
If they're infiltrators or something, their job is really just to stop anybody landing near them anyway, not killing anything.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a consideration.
Yeah. If you've got a lot of troops, I think that isn't a bad shout.
Engage on all fronts, probably not the best one in this one, because a quarter of the map is largely taken up by an enemy deployment zone, so it might prove difficult for you to get, especially if the enemy's boiling out from there to try and do their thing. Then again, you might be happy with engage on all fronts from 3 quarters and getting 10 points. So who knows?
Yeah. I think that because the bombs are 4 points per time, I think more consideration maybe when people play this to the bombs.
Oh yeah.
Because again, like, you know, if you set up 3 bombs, that's 12 points. That suddenly that takes a lot of pressure off the rest of your scoring on primary, right?
Absolutely.
I know it's a bit anti what everyone's going for all Blood Angels at the moment, but for me, this is a map where you want battalions and as many obseki troops and things as you can, and set as many bombs as you can.
I kind of disagree. I would be happy doing this with my Vanguard detachment list, and have a unit here that my Sanguinary Ancient with the Rights of War is near to give them OBSEC to do an action for a turn. Then have the Ancient jump over here and give a different unit OBSEC for a turn to set a bomb with.
Yeah, that is a thing where you can if you start thinking about giving units OBSEC rather than having units with OBSEC.
Yeah, and assault squads, I guess, are popular right now, so they would be perfect for this.
For that, yeah.
Yeah, Daisy
if you're playing Dark Angels, Raven Wing bikes with OBSEC.
Yeah, they would be great.
Has it got to be infantry or not?
It just says 1 unit for your army. You can do this with a whirlwind if you want.
If you've got a Raven Wingy kind of bike army with Dark Angels, this could be really good for them.
I would love to just drive the whirlwind into that corner down there and zap a ball with the whirlwind. But yeah, okay. I hope you've got some value out of this video. This is part of a series, so stay tuned. More will be coming. Thank you so much for watching, guys.
Mission 3.
Ta-da.
Bye-bye.